On January 1st, 2010, everything changed forever.
Yeah, I know. She was so surprised.
Two twins in California got together and put together two Flash animations that were two halves of the first episode of their new web series, Battle for Dream Island. The initial 20 characters in the series weren't exactly making their debut here. It was their first time on YouTube, but they had previously appeared in comics that the Huang twins had made and even in a Flash game, Firey's Candy Bar Adventure. The show is about a competition where the object characters battle for Dream Island, but aside from starring object characters instead of humans, what sets it apart from similar shows like Total Drama is that the viewers are the ones who get to decide who gets eliminated each episode. It's a relatively simple concept, but it's taken off in a big way over the years, yet not in a way such that it's mainstream. It has appeared on the news a couple of times, but it's still relatively not talked about much outside its own fanbase. The first season, simply titled Battle for Dream Island, has 25 episodes, though if you really want to get technical about it, there's 26, since the very first episode had to be split into two parts. At the time, YouTube didn't support uploads above 15 minutes in length, and the combined length of the two parts is 17 minutes. Many of the shortest episodes in the series come from Season 1 actually, including the shortest overall, Lofty, which clocks in at a mere 5 minutes and 55 seconds. This season has various iconic moments in it, such as when Penn plans to call his island Penn Island.
When I win, there'll be a big sign in front saying Penn Island, no spaces, all caps.
And the post-credits scene from episode 8. Even certain assets, particularly a certain mouth, could be considered iconic well beyond the scope of the show. This was the season that introduced many things that would become mainstays in the series as well as in other shows, such as viewer voting for eliminations and rejoins, the recommending of characters that could show up in the background, with credit of course, and even a debut to potentially allow one of a selection of recommended characters to join the competition. Even more impressive is that just the two Huang twins, who were 12 at the start of the series, managed to get episodes out on the first of the month every month for 2 years straight, something they haven't managed to pull off since then, even with a whole crew behind them. Another thing to consider about this is that the voting period was 10 days, so that really means they only had about 20 days to do everything else involved in producing an episode. To be honest though, this season doesn't really stand out all that much compared to what comes after it, but that's perfectly fine. It was the first after all, and we all have to start somewhere. Likewise, the animation isn't super consistent early on, but this can probably chalked up to inexperience. The show was originally supposed to end with Season 1, since the last episode received under 1,000 votes. However, they made a second season anyways, Battle for Dream Island again, which picks up right where Season 1 ends. Some recommended characters such as Bommy, Book, and Nickel get to participate in Season 2, and some veterans return alongside them for a total of 22 contestants. Right away, things were a lot more chaotic as the announcer left at the end of Season 1, so TV and later Puffball Speaker Box, then Fiery Speaker Box after that, took over as the host. The season started on June 29th, 2012, and at first episodes were actually more frequent than Season 1, though releases quickly became more irregular. This season had a bit more of a mysterious tone to it with the lingering threat of Evil Leafy, who can take over the bodies of contestants and generally has an ominous presence. On that note, episode 5 was incredibly ambitious compared to anything that had come before it. There were sequences that had 3D animation, and the second of the 5 parts that the episode had to be broken into was a Flash game, which I already made a video on a bit back. The final of these parts released on August 1st, 2013, with BFDI 6 planned for the following September 1st, presumably meaning they wanted to get back to uploading episodes monthly. But September 1st came and went, and BFDIA 6 didn't come. BFDI had gone on hiatus, with BFDIA specifically being cancelled entirely. Which is what I would have said on or before August 31st, 2023, because on September 1st of that year, BFDIA 6 finally released, and all the people who grew up on the first 2 seasons 10 years ago rejoiced. Personally, I feel they've done a fantastic job with continuing it so far. It's been a fun show, and it shows that Carrie's still got it when it comes to writing these characters, even after all these years. This is gonna be the shortest section of the video because there's only one episode of the 3rd season. IDFB, released on September 1st, 2016, was originally the follow-up to BFDIA, and it seems like there would not have been any competition but instead be more slice-of-life-ish, with the appearance that some plotlines were being set up, like Pencil breaking up with Match, and the Bozo stuff.
Where are you, Bozo? You need punishment. You can't hide forever, Bozo.
This is also the episode where BFDIA's failed debuters receive updated redesigns, as some, such as Bottle, were still using crude assets. And in my opinion, others like Gady wouldn't have meshed well with the existing contestants design-wise, though that might just be because I'm more used to the redesigns. IDFB is on hiatus for the time being, but there's a good chance it'll come back once BFDIA finishes finally. Now for the biggest season in terms of iconicness and how many contestants there are, Battle for BFDI.
Don't you want to battle to win a prize?
But what is the prize?
A BFDI.
It features every character that could have joined the season in the past, along with a few new ones: Lie, Foldy, Stapy, and Loser. Additionally, this season has a unique vibe to it compared to the other seasons. Maybe it's the fact that they're using hand-drawn limbs and faces now instead of assets. Maybe it's the host is an eldritch abomination of an anthropomorphic number who screeches at people and sucks them up to eliminate them, forcing them to do math forever. It could also be that for the first time in the series, there are more voice actors than just the Huang twins, most notably Satomi Hinatsu and Kenzie Bryant aka Pokey. Or it could even be all of the above at the same time. Whatever this is a fan favorite season, with episodes like BFB 1, 6, 10, 12, 14, and 15 being incredibly popular for one reason or another. Some even going as far as to call BFB 14 the best in the whole series. And now, we come to a fork in the road, probably the most consequential thing to happen in the whole series since BFB 1 got shadow dropped late at night on November 3rd, 2017.
Hi guys!
On March 25th, 2020, BFB 16 was released, and upon release, it instantly became the most controversial episode of the whole show, for one reason. 2 split the show into 2 shows, with 40 contestants opting to compete for 2's powers, and the other 14 remaining on BFB. BFB after the split was still good. It didn't reach as high as before the split though, with the possible exception of BFB 22. And it also contains probably the most loathed in the whole series, BFB 20. The finale of BFB was a huge event, as by that point the season had been going over 3 years. BFB 30 was very positively received when it released, though it has soured for some people as we get further from April 9th, 2021, as some people believe that the latter half of post-split BFB was written in such a way so that Flower would win the show. The crazy thing is, in BFB 22, she was 1 vote from being eliminated out of tens of thousands. Imagine if it had gone the other way. Despite this, the way BFB 30 ended, the final scene before the credits, would have been a great ending point for the show as a whole. But of course, that's not the end. A few months before this, on January 10th, 2021, the current newest season of the show, The Power of 2, debuted. Unlike post-split BFB, which was meant to be sillier and more laid back, This one is and was initially intended to be more story-focused. Despite the backlash 2 initially had, people warmed up to them considerably once TPOT actually came out, and I personally think that's a very good thing, because out of the hosts, 2 might actually be my favorites. It also sees the introduction of 2 debuters, Winner and Price Tag. Initially only Winner joined, but 2 didn't want there to be a prime number of contestants because one team would be a member short then. Not that that ended up mattering, cause Teardrop would join on her own team in the next episode, but let's not worry about that. Episode 3 to 6 kinda let the story focus stuff fall to the wayside, due to a change in writers from Satomi to Sam Thornberry, except for TPOT 4 which Carrie wrote. But in TPOT 7, pretty much every concern people had regarding the direction TPOT had been headed was addressed, and now I think things are in a pretty good spot as far as quality concerned, even with the fact that they're doing 2 seasons at once now. Overall, when I first watched BFDI, I thought it was great, and I still do, but at the time I was surprised that it wasn't more popular. Nowadays, it seems to be rapidly gaining popularity, given that Jack and Jellyfish's sub count has more than doubled since I first watched the show in April of 2021, and I think that's wonderful news. That's all I have to say. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Welcome to Battle for Dream Island vote records as of TPOT 10 and BFDIA 12. We're gonna go over a variety of different categories of vote records from BFB, TPOT, and post-hiatus BFDIA, featuring the top 5 placers of each category. These include the contestants with the most elimination votes ever and the most and least save votes among other categories. Also, Season 1 and pre-hiatus BFDIA will be excluded due to having far lower vote counts than anything after. Now, let's begin. First up, the most elimination votes in a single episode. This is specifically about elimination votes. Save votes and BFDIA's likes and dislikes each get their own categories. 5th highest is Dora in BFB 15 who got 11,109 votes. The 4th highest is David in BFB 10 with 11,292 votes. 3rd place is Loser in BFB 7 with 12,062 votes. In 2nd is Match in BFB 12 with 12,758 votes. And the contestant who received the most votes in Vote to Eliminate is Spongy in BFB 16 with a whopping 22,845 votes, 10,000 more than Match. The 5th least voted contestant in Vote to Eliminate is Bubble in BFB 12, who received just 511 votes. The last time any contestant would receive less than 1,000 votes alongside Lightning in the same episode, though he isn't in the top 5 in this category. The 4th least voted is Tennis Ball in BFB 8 with 500 votes. The 3rd least voted is Pin in BFB 6 with just 305 votes. And both of the least voted are from BFB 2, Ruby with 152 votes, and Bubble, the lowest voted, with 147 votes. Also, contestants can take up multiple slots in each category if they have vote counts in the top 5 multiple times. Next is who got the most save votes in an episode, and win votes do not count for this since they aren't being saved from anything. 5th place for this category is Gelatin in BFB 28, where he got 19,293 votes. 4th place goes to Grassy, the only TPOT contestant in this category, as he got 26,669 votes. Leafy gets 3rd place with 28,401 votes in BFB 23. Teardrop has the 2nd most saved votes, as in BFB 29 she received 28,906. And this also makes her the only non-green contestant in the top 5 for this category, as Gelatin takes the top spot, with 42,922 votes, also in BFB 29.
Who have the lowest save votes in an episode though? This category is dominated by TPOT contestants due to how voting works in that season. Anyways, in 5th is Belle in TPOT 6 with 2,559 votes. And in 4th is Basketball with 2,532 votes, also in TPOT 6. These two are the only ones in this category who weren't eliminated in the episode they got these vote counts. Also found in TPOT 6 is the 3rd placed contestant, Eggy, who got eliminated with 2,404 votes. The runner-up for this category is not the recommended character of the same name, but Naily, who got 2,286 votes in TPOT 5. And the lowest voting contestant in Vote to Save is Clock, who got out in TPOT 7 with just 2,152 votes. Now we move on to BFDIA's likes and dislikes, and I will not be including the upcoming BFDIA 13 in the interest of protecting you all from spoilers. First, the likes. The 5th most liked contestant was Book when she got 32,622 in BFDIA 12. In BFDIA 8, Gelatin got the 4th highest likes total with 33,526 of them. Then Rui takes both the 3rd slot and the 2nd slot, having barely beaten Gelatin in BFDIA 8 with 33,642 likes, and also getting 36,259 likes in BFDIA 12. But the top spot goes to Tennis Ball, who has the most by a sizable margin, 40,984 likes, the first to crack 40,000. The 5th least liked contestant was Spongy in BFDIA 11, who had 17,807 likes in that episode. 4th place for this category goes to Rocky in BFDIA 7, where he received 17,035 votes. Spongy shows up again in 3rd place, as in BFDIA 7 he got 16,725 votes, the only time of the top 5 where the least liked isn't also the one who was eliminated in that episode. 2nd place goes to Ice Cube in BFDIA 12, right after winning the prize in BFDIA 11. She got 14,322 likes in this episode. And the least liked contestant is Yellowface, the only one in post-hiatus BFDIA with under 10,000 likes at 9,587. Onto the dislikes, the 5th most disliked contestant is Fiery in BFDIA 8, where he got eliminated with 14,028 dislikes. 4th is Rocky, who in BFDIA 7 got 20,270 dislikes. The 3rd most disliked contestant is Yellowface in BFDIA 9, where he got 21,683 votes. And in the next episode, Gelatin barely beats him with 21,768 dislikes. But the number 1 spot goes to Ice Cube, and it's not even close. In BFDIA 12, she got 28,362 dislikes. Which 5 contestants have the fewest dislikes though? In the 5th slot is Tennis Ball, who got just 5,268 dislikes in BFDIA 10. Hardly a surprise as that's the same episode he shattered the likes record. He's also the only contestant not from Woe Bunch to be in the top 5. Next in line is Coiny, who had 4,263 dislikes in BFDIA 11. And the top 3 for this category are all from BFDIA 9. Pin with 3,892 dislikes, Coiny with 3,661 dislikes, and Bommy, who is the lowest with only 3,419 dislikes. We're gonna look at Vote to Eliminate again, but with a twist. Who got the most while still being safe? 5th place is Donut in BFD 16, who got 5,115 votes. And Naily in BFB 13 barely beats him with 5,202 votes. Flower is the only one in the top 5 who isn't even in the bottom 2, as in BFB 12 she got 5,893 votes. The very same episode where Snowball, the runner-up for this category, got 6,827 votes. But the top spot goes to Lollipop, who got 8,044 votes in BFB 15. Who got the lowest save votes while being safe though. The 5th lowest is Robot Flower in TPOT 6 with 2,951 votes. The 4th placer is Cake in TPOT 5 where he only got 2,854 votes. And 3rd is Book, also in TPOT 5 with 2,822 votes. Belle gets 2nd place in TPOT 6 with 2,559 votes. And Basketball with 2,532 votes in TPOT 6 wins the category. The next 2 categories will be the opposites of the last 2, starting with the 5 least voted contestants who are still eliminated. In 5th place is Robani, who got 8,254 votes in BFB 6. The 4th placer for this category is Lai, who got 7,553 votes in BFB 5. In 3rd place we have Leafy, who got 6,926 votes in BFB 3. The runner-up from BFB 8 is 8-Ball with 4,814 votes. If 2 more people had voted for him, then his vote total would also be a multiple of 8. The winner of this category, though, is Pencil, the very first contestant to leave BFB in BFB 2 with 4,595 votes. Next is the highest save votes while still being eliminated, and the 5th placer is Blocky, who got eliminated with 11,229 votes in BFB 24. In 4th is Leafy, who got 12,113 votes in BFB 28. In 3rd is Fiery, who got eliminated for the first time ever in BFB 25, if you go by when the episode's released in real time, and not by canon timeline order. He got 12,705 votes at this momentous occasion. The only Teapot contestant in the top 5 for this category is Nickel in Teapot 10, since just one team was up for voting that episode. He got out with 14,392 votes. Ironically enough, the top spot goes to the contestant who is the reason for there only being one team up for voting in Teapot 10, Teardrop, who in BFB 29 got 3rd place with 28,906 votes, double what Nickel had. The final category is not about individual contestants, but which episodes had the highest vote totals. The BFDIA is left out since the counts are much higher since the voting system is so different. All 5 are over 70,000, with 5th place being Teapot 8 with 70,064. In 4th place for this category is BFB 29, where 71,828 votes were cast. The bronze for this category goes to Teapot 3, where there were 74,873 total votes. The silver medal goes to Teapot 10, where 76,682 votes were cast. And as of now, the current episode with the most votes is BFB 30, with just about 500 more than Teapot 10, with 77,131 votes. I'd say there's a pretty good chance that Teapot 11 could break this record, but we'll have to wait and see on that front. Thank you for watching, make sure to subscribe with notifications on, and I'll see you in the next video.
With how well my BFDI alternate scenarios video did, and with how long it has been now since then, I think it's right about time I did a follow-up. It has been pretty heavily requested after all. This time though, I think I'm going to devote more focus to a single scenario, that being, what if Teardrop hadn't been allowed to join Teapot? The premise is self-explanatory. In Teapot 2, 2 does not change their mind after they agree with Fanny that Teardrop should not join the game, which means that she has to leave. Let's think about what could change if Teardrop is out of the picture. First off, The rivalry with Eraser and Teardrop does not happen, which is a bit unfortunate since I personally found it fun. It also gave Eraser some relevance for a while, so he doesn't have that here. Additionally, without Teardrop there to push the block off of the strongest team's stand, both them and Are You OK would each have one block on their podiums. As a result, I think that 2 would decide to start doing double eliminations in episode early instead of a tiebreaker. As for who gets out, strongest team still loses fully, while TV will be eliminated from Are You OK as at this point he has not yet gained any development to allow him to be safe. TPOT 3's challenge is the same, but without Teardrop wielding the Zap Ray, Team 8's restaurant never gets destroyed. That said, since Barf Bag is being used as the meal, they would still lose alongside the S. Thus, this elimination is the same as normal regardless. The only difference is that the restaurant survived. Nothing changes in TPOT 4 at all, since the teams don't interact with each other at all, and TV being gone also hasn't changed anything yet. However, in TPOT 5 it's possible that no TV means that Team 8's will lose, because the strongest team wouldn't have used the fish monster robot as TV was needed to control it. However, Are You OK will still lose because they are unable to surface quickly enough. Here, Donut will be eliminated from the game as he hasn't been doing much. Fries also still gets out. The most important change in TPOT 6 is very consequential. Remember how Tree was originally the one who found the chocolate balls before Teardrop took them from him? Instead of giving 2 a live fish, Death Pact again give them the box instead, and do not get put at stake. Instead, Just Not would lose the challenge alongside the S, and I think that Book would get out as Cake would get pity votes from the circumstances of their loss, and everyone else was more relevant. Obviously, Clock also still loses. In TPOT 7, Teardrop didn't really interact with any other teams in a meaningful way besides the Just Not trade. Maybe Just Not finds a different item to trade you to Are You OK for them to patch up the volcano. I think, so that the same 2 teams wouldn't lose twice in a row, Just Not would win somehow. Maybe they noticed the explosive on the roller coaster piece and remove it. Seriously, how did they not notice it? It's pretty big. Strongest team and the S lose this challenge then. Rocky still gets out, as does Eggy, although 2 episodes later than normal. Probably the main impact here is that no Teardrop means that the sequence of events where she's faking being incapacitated does not happen. Since Teardrop is why Eraser fell in the real episode, it's possible Death Pact again loses instead of Are You OK, as Fanny's mouth could fall over the edge instead of hitting whoever is last standing on Team 8's. This means TPOT 9 is where Lightning gets out, and Coiny likely still leaves here as well. Speaking of TPOT 9, Teardrop's absence may be the most consequential of all. Without her, they may not discover that mixing salt water with barf makes a cure for zombification. It probably has to happen in a different way then. Maybe somehow Barf Bag falls into the canal again and she comes out no longer zombified. But even so, normally Teardrop loses this episode, so another team has to take her place. In order to prevent a tie, we can make it so Eraser manages to slip back into the room with golf ball and tennis ball, so that he'll survive. This means Team 8 loses again alongside Just Not. Finally, after Needle and Cake get eliminated, I think Just Not's nightmare is something else, since Book isn't here anymore. I think Team 8 would lose again instead, and the strongest team alongside them. Since nothing would change about TPOT 11, and TPOT 12 hasn't released on YouTube yet as of this video, this is where I will leave off. Here is the altered elimination order in this timeline if you were curious. Those on the right of the line are still in the running. that's just my opinion. What do you think would happen if Teardrop hadn't joined TPOT? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Throughout the seasons of BFDI, there have been many eliminations, and many of those eliminations have turned out to have very close vote totals. In this video, I will be looking at each one of these vote wars, and giving my take on why the votes were so close in the episodes in question. The first ever example of a vote war was all the way back in BFDI 22 in 2011, where Rocky and Flower had a very tight matchup. Tight enough that their liquids had to be separated into separate containers so anyone could even tell. Luckily, they were not tied, and to this day there is yet to be a tied elimination, but they were only separated by 7 votes, with Flower getting 312 votes, while Rocky had 319. Flower is easy to explain. This is Season 1 Flower we're talking about. She really wasn't popular. It is very likely the only reason she didn't lose is because she had just come back, while Rocky had been here the whole time. For Rocky, on the other hand, people probably just thought the vomit gag had gotten old and that he had overstayed his welcome. BFDIA 5's war between Match and Golf Ball is next. They had a 20 vote difference between them, with Match getting 426 dislikes, while Golf Ball had 406. Golf Ball was most likely voted so heavily due to her bossiness and for killing Pencil after she questioned GB's authority. On the other hand, I think the reason Match ended up leaving the game is because she was kind of seen as being annoying due to her Valley Girl accent and mannerisms, very likely not helped by her calling Tennis Ball lazy. Since we're going by timeline order instead of release order, BFDIA 8 is the next episode, and it saw a vote war between Pencil and Fiery. Pencil received 13,530 dislikes, and Fiery got 14,028 dislikes, a difference of 498, which is pretty small given the far larger vote counts for post-hiatus BFDIA. The reason I think Fiery got out is because him and Gelatin joined FreeSmart in the last episode with the specific intent to steal Ruby's Yoyolite and sabotage them while they were at it. Pencil, meanwhile, was the figurehead other side of the intra-team rivalry, that being the original FreeSmarters, not to mention she was, and still is to an extent, perceived as a mean character based largely on BFB1. Whether that's justified or not is another story, though I personally don't think so. BFDIA 14 is the first vote war that has more than 2 contestants in it. This time there are 4, namely Nickel, Fries, Bommy, and Golf Ball. There was an 829 vote difference between the lowest and highest voted combatants in this vote war. This sees the beginning of a trend where every one of the contestants in the vote war have a good deal of popularity. As such, there doesn't really seem to be a clear answer as to why each contestant got so many dislikes, but I will do my best. I think for some, the fact he didn't used to talk much was part of his appeal, so Bommy left more of an impact when he did talk. Him getting more lines was novel at first, but now it's kinda seen as whatever, not a big deal when he talks, as he does so all the time now. Additionally, BFDIA 12, where the voting took place, was released onto YouTube before Bommy got eliminated in TPOT 12, so it was likely a situation where people figured he still had TPOT, still voted him out in BFDIA. Ironically, that very reason is also most likely what cost him 2's power. It is likely a similar story for Golf Ball, who, as of this video, is still in TPOT, and was even first safe in the most recent episode, TPOT 13. The only difference is that Golf Ball got a little bit more dislikes than Bommy, so she got out. As for the other two, Nickel most likely got significantly voted due to people not being all too fond of his way with words. Meanwhile, Fries was likely because of various actions he had taken across the season, including kidnapping Balmy and Needle and forcing them to dig for him. In pre-split BFB, most of the eliminations weren't close at all. The only episode you could even really count as a vote war was BFB 8, between 8 Ball and Golf Ball. She sure seems to show up in vote wars a lot, doesn't she? There was a 765 vote gap between them. This one is very easy to explain. These two had a rivalry in the first half of the season, where they were kind of competing to be the team leader. There was also the factor of it being the 8th episode, which was undoubtedly the main reason why 8 Ball specifically got out. Maybe it would have been Golf Ball or even Robot Flower if it wasn't the 8th episode. Now we have to skip all the way to post-split BFB, starting with BFB 19, in which Blocky and Spongy had a 771 vote difference. I know this doesn't look particularly close, but if I'm including BFB 8, then I also have to include this. We have another easy explanation here. Blocky wasn't really doing much of interest in the early days of post-split, and was probably only safe because of Spongy, who had just unfairly rejoined in the same episode he was already supposed to be eliminated before. At least Loser had been gone for a while before he returned in the same episode. And already we have another vote war immediately after the last, between Gelatin and Ruby. They had a 96 vote difference in terms of their saved votes. In BFB 19, Ruby not only personally burned one of X's aloe vera plants, albeit by accident, that also caused Woody to be burned alive as he landed on the burning aloe vera plant. She could also be perceived as annoying to some, a trait that also applied to Gelatin, which is the most likely reason he ended up down here. And now for probably the most infamous example of a vote war in series history. BFB 22, which was between everyone on the have-nots except for Woody. The difference between the highest and lowest of them was 180 votes. Look at those percentages going to 3 digits past the decimal. Unfortunately, the answer to why they were so close isn't all that interesting. Blocky, Fiery, and Taka were all responsible for making Woody angry, as they picked out a terrible gift for him. Flower didn't really do anything, and yet that's exactly the problem. It is crazy how she survived by 1 vote and then went on to win the whole season. Speaking of, the next vote war was another close scrape for Flower. It wasn't BFB 22 levels of close, but in BFB 24, she survived over Blocky by 318 votes. 6 more votes than she got total in the first elimination she ever survived all those years ago. Why these two? Fiery was still getting residual support from when him and Leafy made up during BFB 22, and this was still when Woody was at the height of his popularity as well. I can only imagine Woody and Blocky would have had to split votes as well due to their blossoming friendship. Flower was simply there since she was the reason her team lost. BFB 25 had a vote war between all 4 of the contestants up for elimination: Leafy, Woody, Teardrop, and Fiery. The difference between the highest and lowest of them was 538 votes. This is another vote war with a very simple explanation. All 4 of the contestants up for elimination this time were very popular at the time, but since one of them had to end up being the least, it was bound to be a tight one. Fiery specifically probably got out as a result of splitting with Leafy. BFB 25 was the last episode of BFB that even resembled a close match, so now we are on to TPOT. The first vote war in this season can be seen in TPOT 3, between Basketball, Eggy, and Foldy. The difference between them was 554 votes. This vote war was caused for the opposite reason as the later ones in post-split. These three weren't all that popular at the time, and still aren't in the case of Eggy and Foldy. It's probably coincidence that they were the ones arguing about who should lead the team near the end of the challenge. TPOT 4 is the first episode to have two cake at stake ceremonies at the same time. Only one team really had a vote war though. Team 8's, with everyone except for Pin being caught up in it. The difference between Coiny, the highest member of the vote war, and Saw, the lowest, was 163 votes. This vote war happened for essentially the same reason as many others both before and after this one. All of the contestants on this team are well liked, but it is not possible for all of them to stay in the game. Wouldn't you know it, TPOT 5's vote war against Tree, Lightning, and Fanny and Remote was caused by exactly the same thing, where all of them were well liked but one of them had to leave. This one was even closer than the last, just a 75 vote gap between Tree and Remote, and just 11 votes between Fanny and Remote. TPOT 6 is the first episode where both losing teams got into a vote war. First is the strongest team on Earth, which was between Belle, Basketball, and Eggy. They'd had a 155 vote gap between them. Belle wasn't in this team's last vote war because she had a large role in TPOT 2, which allowed her to be safe far earlier. As it turns out, her baseline is pretty far below that, though. Additionally, Basketball and Eggy still weren't all that popular, which is why they were here. Are You OK, on the other hand, is yet another instance of a team full of popular characters, which naturally leads to a vote war. Eraser, Tennis Ball, and Fries were the main residents of this one, with just 46 votes separating them. TPOT 7 is the first episode since TPOT 1 that has no vote wars, but TPOT 8 does have one between Bottle, Ice Cube, and Rocky. The first one the latter has been a part of since Season 1. 288 votes separate Bottle and Rocky. The explanation is simple again, I'm afraid, but it has less to do with popularity and more with the fact that Bottle and Ice Cube were actually relevant in the episode, while Rocky did literally nothing for the episode's whole duration. Both teams had vote wars in TPOT 9 again. I will start with Are You OK and keep their segment quick. That is because it is for literally the same exact reason as last time they lost, where everyone is very liked here. There is a 72 vote gap between Eraser and Puffball. Team 8's was the other team who lost, and everyone except for Donut and Gady were in this vote war. There was a 79 vote gap between Barfbag and Coiny. This one once again occurred because everyone on this team is very liked, though it is more obvious that the Woe Bunch members are sharing votes here as they make up the bottom three. On the flip side, Donut and Gady have so much more than the rest. For Donut, it is probably pity votes as a result of Yellowface taking his arms away from him. Meanwhile, for Gady, it's certainly because she keeps having one-on-one conversations with two that allow for further development for both. TPOT 10 was the first time since TPOT 3 where only one team was up for elimination. In it, Bommy was the only member of Just Not who was not a part of the vote war. Just 118 votes separated Price Tag and Nickel. Bommy was the one who got by far the most votes because he had a very cool moment in TPOT 9, deciding to go out on his own terms and taking out Pillow in the process. The rest were most likely close together due to all being quite liked. As of now, the last vote war occurred in TPOT 12, with the strongest team on Earth again. This time the vote war was between Belle and Robot Flower, who were separated by 113 votes. The most likely reason for this vote war is that Belle was the member of this team people cared the least for. Meanwhile, Robot Flower was actively hated because she had taken on the personality of specifically the Season 1 version of Flower for a while, due to a mistake on Basketball's part. One more thing, before I conclude the video. What vote wars might occur in TPOT 14? For Death Pact again, I'm thinking Gady and Marker, and maybe also Tree could be in danger. For Team 2, it will most likely be Price Tag and Ice Cube, and potentially also Eraser, though I don't think he's that likely. Thank you for watching, make sure to subscribe with notifications on, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome to another video. In this one, I will be ranking every team jingle in BFDI. A team jingle is the short audio string that plays when a team initially gets named in the show. Like with the intro initiation ranking, this is going to be measured based on vibes mostly. There will also be a general rating in the bottom left corner. With that said, let's get into it. First off, tied for last are all the teams that do not have team jingles. These are the Squashy Grapes, the Squishy Cherries, another name, the temporary teams from BFDI 6 and 17, the temporary teams from BFDI 14 and 15, the Have-Cots, and the Have-Nots. I probably could have left them out altogether, but I just feel like they should be included for the sake of a more thorough ranking. In 24th place is Free Smart. I was debating on whether to even count this one because it's literally just a sound effect, not even a musical note. I've decided to include it in case some people count it. It's definitely the weakest team jingle out of the BFDIA teams that have them. 23rd place goes to Team No Name. All three teams that got jingles are unambiguously jingles, and BFDIA are pretty one note. Literally, they are just a single note. Team No Name is the one that sounds the worst to me, though just by a little bit. Less Restrained, Less Dumb, or LRLD, is 22nd place. Sounds very similar to the last, but it's less unappealing sounding to me as it sounds less off-key. In 21st place is Wobunch. It sounds like something you would hear in an advertisement for a tech company, and I'm not all that fond of that really. It's above the other two though because it's the most distinct. Number 20 is the best of the BFDIA jingles, the one for the Beautiful Face Devotion Institute. It's kind of funny to me how it's the sound of Ice Cube's licking from her ugly and beautiful faces. Not much else to say about this one though. The number 19 jingle is 8 Names, the first team from BFB to appear on the list. It's basically just a Vine boom, what else do you want me to say? Team Ice Cube's jingle is number 18, and it is just Bracelety yelling out their team name.
Team Ice Cube all the way! Yay!
This might be the only team jingle that occurs at the same time the team gets his name as opposed to right after, which is pretty neat. There is no instrumental or anything that goes with it though, which drags it down some for me. Number 17 is The Losers. Initially, I couldn't decide whether this goes above or below the last. It's just the team chanting Loser's name while some percussion instrument backs it. I think what makes me rank it a little bit higher is the end of the jingle with the click sound effect. Now we're on to good jingles, starting with number 16, which is Death Pact yet again. This is the weakest of the 3 Death Pact team jingles, but I like all of them. It sounds cool, but I think it would have been better if it didn't sound a bit scattershot, though the ending elevates it. I believe it is also the longest team jingle, which is probably bad for a jingle that should only be a couple seconds long, but I like it nonetheless. Number 15 is Just Not. I like the choice of instrument used for this one, and the way the notes descend through it. The sound effect that goes with the nail entering the logo is a nice way to cap it off as well. This one, and a couple of the other ones later on, are also part of background songs used in TPOT. Number 14 is the S. I'm going to feature both versions of the jingle here. The winner's version sounds kinda funky in a good way, and I like how the winnerless version muffles the part where winner's name appears in the other version. At number 13, I'm going to place Are You OK? Like Just Not, their jingle is a part of the background song used at various points in TPOT, which is cool. I like the bubbly dings that wouldn't sound out of place in, say, Windows XP or Vista, as well as the way it echoes out at the end. Cloudy A is number 12. It is definitely an interesting jingle, with two very different parts to it for the two different parts of the name. A slightly sadder one for the Cloudy part, as it was named because 2 misses Cloudy, and a sillier sounding part for the Yay part, which occurs because Yellowface yelled out Yay when 2 gave them the name Cloudy. Number 11 is Free Food. I don't really have much to say about this one. It's short, it's simple, and it sounds kinda cool. That's all a jingle really needs, I think. Number 10 is Team 8's, which is unfortunate that I couldn't bring myself to place it any higher, even 2 places higher. I personally think this jingle is quite fitting for this team. It sounds pretty silly and kind of in disarray, if that makes sense, which is also pretty true of the team itself a lot of the time, it feels like. Number 9 is Team 2. I like the inclusion of the first bit of the intro as a motif, and then the rest of it sounds pretty bubbly, which is ironic as none of the members of this team even wanted this name. Number 8 is the Newbie Alliance. It's kinda got a futuristic feeling to it, which goes well with its logo, which uses the Adobe Desert Gradient. Even though this team had no reason to exist, and only even had one newbie on it, at least we got a good jingle out of it. Number 7 is a better name than that. I would say this one feels pretty iconic, as it was the second team jingle we ever got, so it would be hard for me to rank it lower than this. At number 6, we have Teardrop. Her jingle sounds like a sample from a rock song that would appear in a retro game, and I really dig that. It feels fitting for a one-contestant team, as she is essentially playing the game on hard mode, even as she did fairly well for a while regardless. Reaching the top 5 now, we have Death Pact again. This is the better of the two TPOT Death Pact jingles in my opinion, and it's almost entirely down to being shorter than the other one. When it comes to jingles, not overstaying its welcome can make all the difference. Number 4 is Bagged. It would be criminal of me to not rank the one whose tune is in its name highly, as I think that is a very clever thing to do for a team name and jingle. Third place is Iance. It's pretty low-key and chill sounding, which is always nice. It doesn't fit the team it's for all that well, but that doesn't distract from the coolness of it that more than makes up for that fact in my eyes.
Hold my honor, our team must be the strongest team on Earth.
The runner-up is Beep. I think this is easily the most creative jingle. The way it utilizes electrical buzzing and percussion means it is very distinct from any other team jingle in any season, and that has to be commended. And the number 1 spot goes to Death Pact. This is the OG Death Pack jingle, except it actually isn't, because it's a remix of a sound effect that comes bundled with Windows Vista. This also makes Death Pack Yet Again's jingle a remix of a remix of a remix. 3 layers of remixness. Regardless, this might be one of the most iconic jingles in the show, which is why I can't put it anywhere other than the top of the list. Do you agree with my rankings? What are your favorite or least favorite team jingles? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious to know what other people's opinions look like on this. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe with notifications on, and I'll see you in the next one.